thin layer of non-pigmented, and then that's remnants of epidermal lamellae. Okay, but the white line disease likes to attack that bright white. So I personally feel that it needs to be resected when it's small. Just get on with it, even if it doesn't look that bad, or even if the owner hates looking at this. This is a lot better to deal with than what happens down the road. So here we have chronic laminitic. Okay. It's just obviously freshly trimmed and shot. Okay. This is another one. Let's just take a wild guess where the bone is in this one versus that. Everybody got a pretty good guess? Good idea? Lots of sold up, lots of foot? No, poor guy's got nothing. Right? So this is what happens when you let the uncontrolled or the white line disease go uncontrolled or unmanaged on a chronic laminitic. So hell yeah, we leave all this out here. We can nail to it. That looks great. You know, we've set the shoe back. He's got a roll. You know, that's happy. You know, and I'll admit this came in and I thought, holy shit, this is one of the worst shoe jobs I've ever seen in my life. No, it gets even better. So this went from probably one of the worst shooting jobs I've ever seen in my life to maybe the best. So this little old man from West Virginia brings it in. And the little dude, I'm talking to him, I'm like, well, who just shot your horse? And then we felt like idiots before we took a radiograph. So we're out like dropping this thing in the gravel parking lot, looking at it, and it's like, it's barely lame, right? But anyway, I'm talking to the little old man and asking him, like, well, who shoots your horse? He's like, I do. Okay, and I'm like, well, how old are you? That poor guy's 92 years old, still shooting his own horse. I'm like, hell yeah, that's a great job, you know? If I'm 92 and can get that done, I'm gonna be thrilled, you know? So not picking on it, but again, it's just uncontrolled or mismanaged white line disease. So the answer is, you know, obviously debriding to as healthy a margin as possible, even though it's not fun, it's a tedious process, but you have to get it off. And then, you know, if you can leave them open and still get a shoe on, that's great, and treat topically. But most commonly, in my area at least, it's hard to get owners to, you know, to bandage this, to keep it clean, to treat it daily. Okay? But that is by far and away the preferred thing. So the disclaimer is, if you have white line disease and you debride with healthy appearing margin, I would strongly encourage you to leave it open if you can and have the owner treat it. So exposure to UV light and air is a wonderful thing. Okay, and then treating, so we choose to use 7% tincture of iodine at the school, but any number of things would work, from copper sulfate solutions, so white lightning stuff, to thrush buster, any number of topical treatments would work. But again, the main thing is it will work on tissue that looks like that. You know, that's debrided to a healthy appearing margin, meaning that it's still covered in microbes. So we'll use our topical treatments to kill that. If you're just dumping thrush buster right here down this hole, it's not going to do the job. Soaking white lightning with this isn't going to do the job. You debride it to that and then put it in white lightning and keep it in a nice bag. It's going to do a wonderful job. But you have to allow all those topical treatments to do their job. You just can't stick it on that or stick it on this. You know, like, I mean, that's all dirt, debris, and mud, manure, rocks, any number of things that are packed into it. Yes, sir. Did the old man survive? I don't know. We passed by his house on the way here, because he's a great little old man. He lives right in Princeton, West Virginia, and he refuses to let the town take over him. So he's right in the heart of it, and the town's just growing all around him, from the outbacks, the malls, to everything. But I'll admit, we went out to his house a couple of times, just because, again, he's a nice, funny little man, but you don't really want a 92-year-old man on the road with a horse trailer and all this stuff. So we go out to his house a couple of times, and then I stopped hearing from him. And the horse isn't much younger. I can't remember how old Brigham was, but he's not much younger. So when we stopped hearing from him, you assume it's probably one of the two, but I don't know. And I was a little afraid to call and ask, to be honest with you. But I would like to know. My gut tells me he's still here if his house is still right in the heart of the city, and it's just growing all around him. No, they're great guy. But anyway, if you can shoe him, leave it open, you know, that's ideal. I'll admit, you know, putting it in the bandage in a boot is not a bad idea either. Keep it clean. But if you have, you know, these little white line things and the owners just can't keep them clean, right? So this is, again, I'm going to advocate strongly for leaving it open and exposure to UV light and air. However, if they do not and they cannot provide a clean, dry environment for them, you can debride to a healthy appearing margin and take some fabric, any of those polymeric fabrics, and we're going to build a patch on the outside of it. Okay, so we'll take a compression material, pack in the defect, wrap it up, let it set up. Okay, then we'll take the glue and the fabric and make a patch all the way around it. Okay, and then pull the impression material out. So you've got a big cavity, right? And so this has obviously been treated topically very heavily, and then we're going to put even more antimicrobial stuff in. So again, in no way advocating for taking Ecolox and sticking it all over that. That's a bad idea. If you build the outer shell, you might get away with it.
Once you build your outer shell there and you create that cavity, how are you going to pack something that might live under a shoe?
Yep, so very next slide. So we're going to pack it with a ton of oakum, Venus-turbinine, and I mean just copper sulfate all in the hole. So as much as we can pack in there, right? And then a shoe and a pad over. So basically you're sealing it all up, but in a good way, meaning that you've got all this antiseptic packing around it and you're keeping it away from the outer environment. So we would all agree that most of white line disease is a environmental problem, right? So if you can't provide a clean, dry environment, you got to find some other way to keep the foot away from the environment. So this is a way to do it. I'll tell you, providing a clean and dry environment, exposure to UV light and air is preferred, for sure. But this is a way to go about it if you can't get that done. Okay, so we just quickly go through, you know, a very common chronic laminated course. We've got a 16-year-old walking horse gelding. The owner complains of an odd-looking hoof capsule, and there's a bulge in the toe, right? So talking on the phone, this is the information you get. So when you go out to see the horse, this is what you're presented with. So it's a chronic laminitic foot that's probably been mismanaged to a certain extent, but obviously very, very common. And so we just simply go just down the list of our principles. What would we like to do with this horse? Okay, we'd like to radiograph him. So again, looking at our radiographs, again, this is just remembering the measurements. So this is not that horse. Okay, so we're going to look at CE distance, normal miller distance, palmar angle, sole depth, and digital brachial. Okay, for a farrier, I tell you again, the sole depth and palmar angle are by far and away our two biggest ones. The rest of them, I think, are equal. So those two are huge. Looking at placement of the distal phalanx in the hoof capsule. But again, this is a radiograph of that horse. Okay, so if you look at it, you know, if we were just to describe this to somebody, I'll tell you it's a chronic laminitic hoof with a malaligned hoof capsule. So meaning that the hoof capsule is malaligned to the distal phalanx. It has adequate sole depth, probably has an excessive lever, and it has minimal heel support. That's it, right? Maybe we don't need to go crazy. So how are we going to trim and shoe this guy?
Move the shoe back to the center of rotation.
Okay, so we'd like to move the shoe back and place it around the center of rotation of the distal phalangeal joint or the coffin joint. Okay, that's one. How are we going to trim it? You know, again, I still strongly believe before we ever even think about a shoe or what we're going to do, I think you got to trim it first, and the trim will often dictate what you have to do. But I can compromise the shoe. I don't really want to compromise the trim if I can. So we're going to trim it. We're going to get our knife out and cut away a lot of sole. No. So this is, when I say adequate sole depth, it's still minimal. So we'd like to walk away with this horse losing no vertical depth. Again, I still firmly believe this. It's really, really hard to have a horse that's lame just having too much foot or being too long. You know, vertical depth is a wonderful thing. I don't think we need to be nubbing them off until we can feel a pulse or see the outline of the distal phalanx. Okay, so we want to preserve sole depth. What else would we like to do? Maybe adjust the palmar angle slightly, so maybe lower it just a little bit. You know, that one I could go either way. So that one would be an argument, because when you look at P1 and P2, they're a little steep. So maybe lowering this, maybe good, maybe not. You know, but again, that's a question I think you should ask yourself. You know, again, I can't tell you right or wrong either way, you know, for sure. So we'll think about that. What else?
Break over back to out.
Okay, so you want to move the break over to dorsodistal tip of the distal phalanx, or just move it back. I'll admit, just any improvement would be great in the shoe. Okay, but the main thing is this is the horse that presents clinically sound. Again, the owner's only complaining of what? An odd-looking hoof capsule and a bulge at the toe. It's not lame. So that little key piece of information would lend me to want to just dress this back as far as I could. To go ahead and just align the dorsal surface of the hoof capsule and the dorsal surface of the distal phalanx.
Give you more support.
Yeah, give him more support. Like Patrick said, we're going to move the whole shoe back. So we just take this shoe and do nothing more to it than just simply move it back to the center of rotation. It alone would give it a proper base support. You know, not an excessive lever. You know, obviously there's no modification done to it, but it's just simply sliding it back, or more or less just simply dressing this back and then fitting it would markedly change this horse. So again, you can get into all the measurements, but I would tell you the biggest thing is this yellow line. Okay, that we don't want to change at all. All the other things we could go about them any number of ways. So some of us may want a rocker, put a big rocker toe on. Some of us may want to slide the shoe way back. Some of us may want to put a big roll toe. Some of us may want to use a natural balance shoe. Somebody may want to use an equilibrium. Somebody may want to use a comfort. Any number of ways. Hell, somebody may want to bust out a natural balance and put on. Any number of things we could do, right? Okay, but the one thing we don't want to argue is this yellow line. That's by far and away the most. We want to preserve that, right? So we just simply dress it back, and then, you know, again, I probably melded a lot of ideas. So we slide the shoe back some, we pull it some, we square it up, blend it some, and then recruit frog and sole into load bearing. But again, just simply moving everything back, trimming the dorsal hoof wall. But the biggest thing is maintaining that yellow line. And I'll admit, it's one of the hardest things in the world to do for a farrier is to keep the knife in your pocket. But there's a lot of time when it just needs to stay in the pocket. Okay? So we reduce the toe lever, get a bigger base support. So this horse will grow out a more normal, healthy hoof capsule. And so just like Patrick's talking about, aligning the shoe around the center of rotation. So if we just, and everybody can argue about where exactly it is, but let's just roughly draw a line from the middle condyle of P2 straight to the ground. Right? And look where the shoe is positioned. You know, who cares if it's 50-50 or 47-53. It's just this one is markedly off, right? We need to markedly improve it. Okay? But again, maintaining sole depth and doing it. So same foot, a little different trimming, a little different shoe placement, and a much happier hoof capsule. Okay? So I think oftentimes we get lost in the minutiae of the fights over these small, fine details, but you just need to make improvements. Okay? So moving in the right direction and maintaining the sole depth. So, and then the big thing again is, you know, when somebody's doing this for the first time, knowing that the foot's going to change colors, alerting the owner that the foot's going to change colors. Again, inexperienced farriers that haven't done it or been exposed to these chronic laminitis don't know that it's going to change colors. We all know the second it starts to change color, you get a little nervous. Because in a normal horse, why does it change colors? It shouldn't be. In a chronic laminitic, I would tell you just to go through it. Okay, so the first thing it will do is go from pigmented striated, meaning whether it's black or a white foot, it will change to a bright white. And then it will change to this yellow from the stretched or diseased or deteriorated white line. So it will go through that color progression. And it's not uncommon when you get to the junction of that bright white and the yellow to see, you know, old seromas or old hematomas that are there. It's not that uncommon to see dry blood. You can't just stop just because there was old dry blood. But the person needs to become experienced enough that they see the difference between that and fresh blood. And again, as a younger farrier, there's nothing wrong with asking for help or going and watching somebody do it. I think the only thing you can do wrong in this case is not go learn. You know, just go learn and do it next time. And then as the person, let's say you're the experienced person in that, there's nothing wrong. And I think it's wrong of you not to get that person to jump in and help, make them run their ass a little bit, make them go to their comfort zone and then push them a little bit further. And if they won't go all the way, then you do it. But if we're not helping each other, you know, nobody's learning, nobody's having fun. It's easy to just do all this and take the credit. Ooh, okay, sure, your tummy. But again, I think if you're that farrier in that position, your true client, your true goal should be the farrier that referred it to you, and helping them be able to handle this horse next time. Okay. Sound good? So any questions on laminitis? Yes, sir.
I'm really struggling with the notion of bone level laminitis. Given a horse with somewhat upright pastures, look at the x-rays, so you've got a fairly well-aligned P1, P2, P3. I've always been taught that a straight line from those two balances is the most efficient. Biomechanics is the most efficient.
Yes.
In a laminitic horse, I'm thinking a lot about the people, especially when I've sold them. You talk about rounding. If you got a strongly positive palmar angle, which often goes hand in hand with a very well aligned three balances. You talk about getting that closer to zero palmar angle, which is rounding heels, which I translate as increased attention on the BET, which increases the whole palmar.
Okay. Did you just get here?
I've been here a while.
You've been here all day? Yep. So we spent a lot of time talking about the pull on the deep digital flexor tendon, okay? And I would tell you that again, in a very, not nebulous way, but a non-committal way, you can agree that a 0 degree palmar angle provides a more even loading through the distal plexus, right? Okay. So you heard me say the sentence earlier about sometimes you will rob Peter to pay Paul. If you're that concerned about the lamellar interface, you may choose to rob Peter, meaning the deep digital flexor tendon, possibly the dorsal lamellar interface, and possibly the navicular apparatus to get more even loading of the distal phalanx. Sometimes. Okay? You can go the opposite. You could decide that that particular horse, if you decide that it is the pull of the deep digital flexor tendon that's causing the most discomfort, the most distortion to the horse's hoof capsule, then you may wedge him well beyond normal limits to try to decrease tension within the distal phalanx, or within the dorsal lamellar interface. But the goal, the principal goal, is to achieve a normal palmar angle, to achieve normal phalangeal alignment, not one way or the other in my mind. So the idea, a lot of what we're talking about, the heels and getting back to a zero, maybe zero's a bad word, but back to a more normal palmar angle is just not allowing them to drift on you. Because ideally you don't want a broken forward or a broken backward foot pastern axis. Okay?
That was kind of my point.
Yep.
So you want to get up to what they want normal P3 angle.
Yep. And you want to leave them more vertical. You don't want to achieve a phalangeal alignment.
I guess what I'm saying is sometimes phalangeal alignment,
Yep.
including all three balances, is not really consistent. Or if it's going to be contraindicated to a flatter palmar angle.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, some of them you just can't. I've got chronic laminitis that live at 15 and 20 degrees.
My question to you is, how do you associate that with combination? What do you use to make that call?
I'll admit, it's a bit of a guessing game. So in looking at their alignment, just their overall muscle tone, the way the horse is built, and then again, right or wrong, a lot of just being critical of yourself, knowing exactly what you did and how did the horse respond. You know, again, for a lack of a better way, I mean, I constantly try to get to as normal of a palmar angle as I think the horse can have, which I think a normal palmar angle for most horses lives somewhere between 0 and 10. And again, in my experience, you know, 3 to 5, 3 to 8 is probably far more common.
So, specific example, the horse will pull up like pastures.
Yep.
You want to trend more towards the line balance naturally.
Yep.
And a very steep palmar.
Yep.
I just
for the flexible aluminum. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No, I would not say that's not. I would say if you have a steep pastern, I would say it is contraindicated to overlower the heels. You know, again, whatever the alignment is, again, if normal for that horse is 12 degrees, then it is contraindicated to go to 0. For sure. Yeah. Is that not clear? That's not coming across?
Could you possibly, like, you're saying that 25 to 12 degrees, since trying to do it both sometimes, the greater rash, you might have to, okay, once we as well, you might get the calm makers, it's better on rolling the 10, you don't really necessarily always have to.
Yeah.
Keep it, you have to determine, okay, if I drop it 2 degrees,
Yep.
do I say, okay,
No.
I put it on 2 degrees,
Yeah.
you take it to 14 degrees.
Yeah.
But the salt has to be turned with greater rash.
Yeah.
Big problem, right? You can't look at it and get.
No, I think it's difficult to just simply look at a hoof capsule and come up with a very specific, oh, this horse has to have a 12-degree palm wrangle and it's going to live at 12 degrees 365 days a year. So whatever that horse is at now, especially if they tend to lend themselves to those steeper palm wrangles, their heels are going to grow more than their toe, and so they're going to grow to a steeper palm wrangle throughout a shoeing cycle if they are kept in a shoe. Even barefoot they will do it. So just like every shoe we put on is probably too big day one. It's probably just about right, you know, at a 3-week mark, and then it's probably a touch too short at the 6-week mark. Like again, I mean, we're dealing with a living structure that's constantly changing, and we're trying to put stationary things on it. We're trying to do the snapshot of that trim one day and make it perfect for 6 weeks. It's all BS. You can't get there unless you're going to go trim that horse to a perfect 12 degrees every single morning at 8:30 in the morning. It's going to be right at 8:30 in the morning. It's not going to be perfect at 8:31. You know. So again, I think again we get lost in these minutiae, these like fine details. So just look at the big overall picture, and we know that if you're holding a horse at a palm wrangle that's not normal for it, whether it's too steep or too low, you will not have a healthy hoof capsule. So the end goal is to have as healthy of a hoof capsule as possible. And you need to constantly be critical of yourself and reassessing that every single time. And if it's drifting one way or the other on you, you need to change something. You need to be open to it. And advice from other people.
Just trying to stay within your margin.
Yeah, just stay within your margins of error.
For a cycle.
For a cycle? Yeah. Sound good? Any questions? What do we do now? I don't know something.
Bouncy house.
Yep. Let's everybody get some cotton candy and go to the bouncy house. Or go in Stockhoff and spend some money. Okay.